Community. It is defined by the interpersonal relationships, cultural patterns, shared memories, and aspirations. It is a place-based group of people who have some meaningful capacity to influence their common needs. This is our community. Welcome to Santa Paula, California. It is located 66 miles northwest of LA and 44 miles southeast of Santa Barbara. A very charming and quaint city, somewhat rural, just 4.6 square miles with roughly 31,000 residents. Santa Paula is known as the citrus capital of the world. It was also a thriving city for the oil industry and possesses a railroad depot and airport. It was originally inhabited by the Chumash Indians and became colonized by the Spanish. It was founded as a city in 1872. Santa Paula is a Hollywood favorite. Many films, commercials, and TV footage shot here for decades. Now, looking at the world as it really is and not what it was. The city is very family-oriented and has a thriving culture that is mostly centered around vintage cars and trucks. There are also a lot of bicycle enthusiasts and hiking trails. 82% of the population is Hispanic. 36% of the population has less than a high school diploma, and 14% live below the poverty line. The median income is approximately $61,000. 20% of the residents are not U.S. citizens. What currently ought to be done? We see that the community's most pressing needs revolve around its culture of cars. The roads and streets in Santa Paula are in great need of repair, making it very difficult for some in the older and more impoverished areas of the community to get where they need to go. The issue of quality affects equity throughout the city and prohibits self-reliance. Some people's ability to participate in the city has been severely limited. Not only are the roads difficult to navigate for drivers, but full participation of life in the city is restricted only to drivers, which is an issue of equity. Citizens, no matter what their age, physical condition, or income level, should have fair access to participate in the civic, political, and economic processes that shape the city. Movement, mobility, and transit are central to participation. Most people in the social media public forum groups agree something needs to be done to change the conditions of roads in Santa Paula. What about those who don't own cars or drive cars? What about the conditions of the sidewalks, bike paths, and crosswalks? How does this car-centric culture affect the more vulnerable in the community? Those who are stay-at-home parents without cars, the income vulnerable, senior citizens, teenagers, and children. Current design of bike lanes, sidewalks, and crosswalks is inadequate and restricts the movement throughout the city as there are no lanes or lights to protect people. The pervasiveness of driving obscures the extent to which car centricity makes participation very difficult, if not impossible, for many citizens. Walking is the most basic form of transportation, but there is a pedestrian safety crisis due to drivers speeding, being impaired or distracted, or engaging in other dangerous behaviors. Over the last decade, pedestrian deaths have skyrocketed, increasing by 46%. We need to leverage everything that works: infrastructure improvements, changes to road design, equitable enforcement of traffic safety laws, and community outreach to reverse the deadly trend and make our roadways safe for people walking, biking, and rolling. A number of factors contribute to the rising pedestrian deaths, including an increase in dangerous driving behavior, such as speeding, impaired driving, and distraction. California's pedestrian fatality rate is almost 25% higher than the national average, and no state has more pedestrian deaths on its roadways than California. How is the city of Santa Paula working on changing the design of the roads and streets in Santa Paula to improve our community? There is currently a $16 million project to replace 8,000 feet of water and sewer mains on Harbor Boulevard, which means repaving the road, along with pedestrian safety improvements such as rapid flashing beacons and handicap-accessible safety ramps. However, more improvements need to be made throughout the city to improve crosswalk design, bike paths, and street safety design. Here are some ideas as we move forward. 3D painted crosswalks. These crosswalks are inexpensive and grab the driver's attention, forcing them to slow down and increasing safety for pedestrians. Pedestrian crosswalks need to be engineered to increase driver awareness. These include push-button designs or at scheduled times. Systems can also be activated via infrared bollards and by thermal detection. LED-enhanced signs can grab drivers' attention and increase yield rates. Many of the crosswalks throughout Santa Paula need new paint and new design. What about the design of the streets themselves? Let's take a look at that. Here is a typical example of a 4-lane road. These roads can be restriped, having 1 lane in each direction and a turn lane down the center. These can leave room left over for bike lanes. On a 4-lane road, drivers may stop or slow down at any time to make a turn from the left lane. These unexpected actions result in crashes and unsafe driving conditions. It is also a safety issue for pedestrians. Research has shown that 3-lane roads are safer for pedestrians than 4-lane roads. There are fewer lanes to cross, so pedestrians are exposed to traffic for a shorter time, and it's easier to judge how traffic is moving. Bottlenecks can also become a problem for emergency vehicles on 4-lane roads. 3-lane roads improve emergency response. Traffic flows more consistently at appropriate speeds, making drive times more predictable. Now let's look at some new bike lane designs. Families and commuter riders prefer physically buffered bike lanes and are the safest. This is a much more low-stress biking condition. They accommodate all ages and abilities, opening up so many opportunities. They enable children to ride to school, adults to ride to work, and all citizens to have an alternative and more diversity in transportation within the city. Buffer bike lanes are preferable to advisory bike lanes or just simply painting the bike lane green. These are some of my design ideas to improve the roads and streets in Santa Paula. These designs would create better quality and more equity. They also move Santa Paula away from being a car-centric city and towards a more self-reliant city that's more pedestrian and biker-friendly.